Once again, the eyes of the world are on the gardener's greatest treat of them all, the Chelsea Flower Show. You know, we British gardeners really are a privileged lot. You only have to step inside this huge marquee to be quite certain that we're served by the very best nurseryman anywhere. There's 3.5 acres of canvas here, and inside nearly 200 exhibits, and the best and most varied collection of plants you'll find gathered together in one place anywhere in the world. There are the large exhibits staged by big firms like Hillier's superb display of trees and shrubs, and the subtle mixed plantings of blooms of Bressingham. Then there are the little gems like Woodfield Brothers lupins and S&M Brackley's sweet peas. There are exotic orchids, strange-looking carnivorous plants, cacti, bulbs, alpines, vegetables, and of course acres and acres of roses. The quality here is quite astonishing, and top of the form in my book, once again, is Carol Klein of Glebe Cottage Plants. An old gate opens to allow your eye to wander down a mossy path, winding amongst gnarled old tree stumps, and of course a mouth-watering selection of plants. She brought well over 1,000.
The garden designs here at Chelsea are a traditional source of inspiration for visitors. But this year, many are more movie sets than gardens. There are startling evocations of a ship's deck, of an old ruin, railway station, a scene from fiction. They're dominated by props and imposing structures. This is gardening escapism. It's an exciting development for Chelsea, but it may spread no further.
The excitement of Chelsea for me is the plants, for it's a plantsman's paradise, where you can not only find the rare and unusual, but also reacquaint yourself with old garden favourites and familiar plants. But what's really exciting is searching out the new varieties and recent introductions. Plants like this variegated polemonium, which is more of a rediscovery, as it was lost to cultivation in Britain for nearly a century. Recently discovered in a French nursery, can now be bought in this country. Another hardy plant is the new pink delphinium from Burncoos in Southtown. It's a robust and mildew-resistant variety, so it should stand well in the border. I particularly like this new Streptocarpus chorus line. Its double-striped flowers are a welcome change from the usual single varieties. There are quite a few new pelargoniums this year. 2 dwarf ones on Pearl Salmon's stand are Cherry Bidwell with variegated leaves and Wray Bidwell with dramatic pink-edged foliage, which should liven up any tub or window box.
Exhibiting at Chelsea for the first time amongst all the big boys is a very daunting task, so Dave and Pat Clark have been hovering anxiously while their exhibit was judged. With their daughter Emily, they run a small nursery, Cottage Garden Plants of Cookfield, and they specialise in plants that are easy to grow but a little bit unusual, like this lovely Hemerocalis, which I must say I hadn't seen before, and the striking Verbascum Cotswold Queen. But best of all, the brand new geranium all the way from Croatia, which has typical geranium phaeum flowers, but this lovely chocolate blotch on the leaves. Alan Holloway from Wimborne Road Nurseries is another new boy this year, but my goodness, he could teach us a thing or two about growing fuchsias. This huge fan is just 2.5 years old. It started life as a little cutting, and by successive pinching back and training in the shoots, he's produced this wonderful plant. His 2 tips are to start out with a small flower variety and never to let the plant get pot-bound. Keep potting it on until it reaches a final 18.5-inch pot. And then you'll finish up with a lovely plant like this, which will, over the season, give you literally thousands of flowers.
Chelsea's an international showcase. Exhibitors include Malaysia, Trinidad and Barbados. Now, most countries show cut flowers because the regulations governing the movement of live plant material are daunting. One exception is an amateur gardening club from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Many of these exotics have been gathered by members from their own back gardens, also the leaves and the logs. You can imagine the red tape, the sweat and the toil. The display is dense with rainforest flora, including a Brazil nut seed pod and the world's tiniest orchid. South Africa's National Botanical Institute is also showing living plants for the first time. They've been selected from 2 of the country's 7 different climatic zones: desert and the subtropics, where bananas and birds of paradise grow wild. Nature recently produced this lovely yellow sport. Now that South Africa's been accepted back into world markets, we can expect a dramatic influx of both blooms and plants from nurserymen in this flora-rich nation.
The gardens at Chelsea are expressly designed to catch the eye and stop you in your tracks. So there aren't many that you will want to take home complete and rebuild in your own backyard. This, for example, is a recreation of a disused railway station designed by Julian Dowell for the Sunday Express. Now, there can't be many of us who've got an old railway station in the back garden, but this gives a perfect idea of how to cope with a steep slope. Up here on the top level by the booking office or the garden shed, there's a tiny kitchen garden, which just shows how much you can pack into a small space. And then through the fruit arch in this corner, there's a little pond surrounded by moisture-loving plants. The water bubbles up through that, over the gravel path, down the old steps, across the cracked platform and down onto the track. The platform level is backed by a Cotswold stone wall. Now, this is all new stone, but it's been artificially distressed to make it look old. And behind that is a border full of delicious cottage garden flowers, absolutely perfect for any small garden. On the lower level, where the tracks are, that's the wild garden and the pond. But I've been waiting here all the morning and still no trains. Wrong kind of leaves, I suppose. The next door neighbours are the National Asthma Campaign. So this is a low allergen garden. It's designed by Lucy Huntington, and she's filled it with insect-pollinated flowers with a low pollen count. But grass can often be a problem for asthma sufferers, so where do the children play? Well, that problem is solved with these special play tiles, which are actually soft to the touch. The Wind in the Willows garden is a delight. It was designed by Bunny Guinness for Wyvale Garden Centres, and it's a bit of a stage set, I suppose, but nonetheless very beautiful and packed with ideas. I love the way the garden continues over the top of the building, and why not? It shouldn't be too difficult to build. The stepping stones are made with cut-off tree trunks, which could get a bit slippery later on, but tack a bit of wire netting over the top and they become completely non-slip. Now, this is a garden for children, so you could be a bit worried about the pond, but no problems, because just an inch below the surface is a strong steel mesh which completely eliminates any danger. But if you haven't got space for a pond this size, you could build a lovely little ferny feature out of cut-off beer barrels, like this one at the Stookie Lamp Shop.
The emphasis at Mallock Court is on the rare and unusual. And for plants like Acer millicent, it's the first time they've come out the nursery to Chelsea. I think it's going to be an exciting plant. It's got good variegation, it's hardy, and the white striping on the bark will mean it's going to be great for winter colour. It's a first for this Acer too. A native of China, it's not been known to fruit in Britain until now. Eventually a large tree, young foliage emerges a delicate pink. Tapicia is a rare tree, both in its native Sichuan and in cultivation. Seeds were sent to the nursery in 1981, and the resulting trees are probably the only ones in Britain. It has glorious autumn colour and eventually reaches quite a large specimen. And it's unique amongst trees in that its name is an anagram of, well, you work it out. Some of the stands have a really foreign feel to them, like the subtropical gardens at Abbotsbury in Dorset. Here, plants come from all over the world and from many different climates. Down on the south coast, they thrive in the warm, moist sea air, and many will flower for several months during the year. Plants like the South African Osteospermum, and this wonderful red cestrum from Chile, and the handsome Madeira geranium. With a longer growing season, plants are able to put on much more growth. The result's an absolute explosion of lush foliage, from the delicate fronds of the tree fern through to the huge kidney-shaped leaves of the heliotrope. And just look at these calla lilies, giant hearts of green, topped with pure white trumpets. If your garden's a little small, then why not try growing your fruit and vegetables in amongst your flowers? That's what designer Julie Toll has done here in the Safeway garden for St John's Ambulance. It's packed with interest. Salad crops of nasturtiums and heartsease, in amongst wild strawberries and oregano. There's even an edible hedge with old favourites like elderberries, hazelnuts and wild cherries. No chores like mowing the lawn, because this fragrant turf of thyme and chamomile just requires the occasional clip. And of course, you could always use the clippings on the Sunday roast. No grass sward could offer such a tapestry of textures and colours. The purple of this thyme is picked up in the mauve of the chives and the alliums. There's some wonderful plant groupings here, like these broad beans with purple orris, bronze fennel and mint. Texture's important too, and this is provided by the cardoon, set off against meadow clary and lollo rosso lettuce. Height's obtained by using climbers, like hops, vines, and the ubiquitous runner bean. The plants even feature in the pots. I can't imagine how many poppy seeds would be contained in this planter. The whole result is a profusion of texture and colour. It's certainly given me some ideas for my vegetable patch.
Garden designers are in a bloom mood. Almost every single one of them has adopted the same subdued colour scheme. Hints of lilac, glimpses of yellow, touches of pastels, but predominantly blue. Christopher Bradley Hull's planting for Gardens Illustrated is an especially fine example of this scheme. But a few exhibitors have dared to be different. Knotcuts have divided their stand into 4 socket-to-you colours, each from a different quarter of the colour wheel. Pink, white, red, and yellow. Scarcely a fashionable blue in sight. I suspect that this year's blues may have been influenced by last year's work from some of the up-and-coming young designers, like Dan Pearson in the Evening Standard Garden. So, what's the colour leader doing this year? He's opted for a rich tapestry of dark colours and vibrant reds, yellows and oranges.
This year, the Hardy Plant Society's display has a real diversity of plants that have come from an equally diverse range of sources. Members, both professional and amateur, have lent their best plants for the show. And considering the organisers don't know what plants they're going to get until they actually arrive, deciding on a colour theme can be a nightmare. Well, the team have pulled it off again and produced an absolutely stunning display. There's some particularly attractive plant groupings here, like this pink striped phormium, which is set off beautifully against this delicate purple-leaved anthriscus. I can see how this Aquilegia magpie got its name. The flowers have this beautiful white petticoat, which is set off against these dark purple bonnets. Robust plants, they're at home in many different types of soil, making them indispensable border subjects. All this is a real tribute to the society to produce such an interesting and varied range of plants.
Just outside the Great Marquee, there are conservatories of all shapes and sizes and price ranges. But most people buy them as an additional room, so few are specifically designed for plants.
Modern conservatories have very little ventilation, but you can overcome that situation by choosing plants that will put up with hot, dry air. And some of the mimosas are very good. Mimosa Motiana is excellent, silver grey foliage, and one of the earliest flowering mimosas in November. Shading is critical if you want to grow certain species, such as Tetrastigma, the chestnut vine, that requires shade, and Stephanotis floribunda, which is the Madagascar jasmine, that also requires quite deep shade to grow well. You can use plants to create shading in a conservatory. You have to be careful what you put up into the roof space because it's going to come under intense light and heat. Two suggestions, Trachelospermum jasminoides, the Confederate jasmine, which is a beautiful evergreen with fragrant white flowers in the spring and summer, and another one, Pandaria charisma, which will withstand very high temperatures and bright light, summer flowering, and again it's evergreen.
Rose colours go in and out of fashion, and in 1994, 2/3 of introductions are pink. They range from the shocking, like Cambridgeshire from Mattox, to the more refined Summer Sunrise from Peter Beals. My favourite's called Eglantine, and it comes from David Austin. It already seems too classic to be new. The Austins have also produced Radio Times, and another pink rose to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the poet John Clare. Now, the anniversary was last year, but the rose wasn't released. It proved sadly deficient in the smell department. It did so well in subsequent trials that the Austins have now decided to put it on the market. Another pink from Harkness is called City Girl, but it's an unusual introduction because it's a climber. There are very few new climbers, and Harkness say they plan to remedy this over the next couple of years. Mattox have also recognised the shortage with their vigorous white cloud. Friars are the only breeders who seem to be turning their backs on pink. One of their introductions is an apricot rose. Called Warm Wishes, it's a hybrid tea, and it's already won 7 international awards for fragrance.
There are always a tremendous number of sundries at Chelsea, and I've been searching around for something new that might interest you, and I've come up with the answer to gardeners who've got problems with birds or cats in the vegetable garden. This bamboo cloche will do the trick, and one like that would cost £13, or if you grow them in clumps, this one will cost just £10. And if you've got wide borders that you can't reach into for pruning, how about this long-handled pruner? Now, I daren't prune anything in a garden at Chelsea, so I've just picked up this bit of stick to show how it works. Perfect. This one would cost £30, and it's ideal too for somebody who's gardening from a wheelchair. I'm actually in a garden for people who are blind or visually impaired, and it's designed specifically to prove that even if you have got a disability, you can still enhance your life greatly by gardening.
Also new to the market is this space-saving water butt. It stands out from the wall just 20 centimetres. You must fix it with good, strong door bolts, because when it's full, it's very heavy. In fact, it weighs twice as much as I do. It costs around £80.
They say old ideas are the best. This is the Wardian case. It was originally produced to transport plants from overseas. It turned a 90% failure rate into a 90% success rate for these transported plants. With statistics like these, they soon became popular, and no self-respecting explorer would have been seen without one. It's a bit like a mini classy greenhouse, and one like this will set you back around £350.
The judges hate it, but I love it. The rest of the show may be awash with nostalgia, but here at last is a designer looking forwards, not backwards. Paul Cooper's garden goes beyond the botanical. Plants appeal to our senses, but this also appeals to our sense of humour. Surprises, the absence of lawn, modern materials, strong verticals, well-defined colour blocks. They all show a clarity of design and, yes, a respect for tradition. 5 years ago, Mr. Maidment's garden might have provoked a similarly lukewarm response, and now it's won a gold. No awards for Paul Cooper this year, but I think he should keep on designing.
Well, actually, that garden's not quite to my taste. I prefer something a bit more traditional, but not that traditional. Here on the Australian garden, I found some of my favourite plants. And there's renewed interest in Australia's native flora because they're so drought resistant. They also make perfect garden plants. Ones like the bottlebrush behind me and the Banksias. Well, I've really enjoyed Chelsea, and I'm tempted, but I know I can't, to take the whole garden home with me.